As always, we ground everything in our Best for All strategy. And today we will be talking about educators. Before we get started, I want to introduce our team. I think Tracy and I are the only ones here. But our the educator effectiveness team is the team that we work on, and we do all things evaluations, teacher evaluations, administrator evaluations. We also do a few other random things. Martha Moore is our senior director of educator effectiveness. I'm Amy Floyd. I'm the director of data and district support. I work with T Encompass data, strategic compensation, which is differentiating pay, vacancy data, and educator diversity. Those three things are things that charter schools do not have to submit. Tracy Riddle is here. Most of you probably know Tracy. She is our Director of Educator Effectiveness. She does all of the alternative growth measures, which are the student growth portfolio and the alternative growth measure from the Universal Reading Screener. And she takes care of team evaluations. If you have any questions about the team rubric, Tracy is your person to go to. Micah Fager, who is not with us today, she's been with us in the past. She is the Director of Team Training and Support, Observer Training, and she keeps our website up to date. Sarah Brown is the Recognition Communicator and Coordinator. She oversees 8 educator recognition programs like Teacher of the Year, Principal of the Year, Supervisor of the Year, and some others. There's also, and she oversees 4 advisory councils that include prior Teachers of the Year, and she manages all of our external communications. I do want to say that I've in talking with Sarah, I have heard her say that charters don't typically submit teachers to the like Teacher of the Year as Teachers of the Year, and that is something that you all are included in. So if you want more information about that, you can email Sarah, you can email me, Tracy, or team questions, and we will get that information to her. We'd love to have you all included. And then we have a team contractor's job that right now has not been filled. So we are waiting on filling that. So today we're going to talk about the evaluation configurator role and responsibilities. We're going to share some resources with staffing, configuring permissions, training, and what you need to be getting ready to do next. So I'm assuming most of you are the evaluation configurator for your charter. So your responsibility include making sure that staffing is accurate, making sure the data quality and data security is managed appropriately, communicating and supporting adherence to the team timelines. So you're making sure that your principals are meeting all those timelines, supporting measure selection, which will be coming up soon, overseeing the implementation of the whole process, managing everything in T Encompass, and training and supporting platform users on the T Encompass, making sure your principals know how to use T Encompass, and assuring that all of the state board policies regarding evaluations are met. So we want to start out with staffing. So we have rolled over for the new year. So T Encompass is ready for 24-25 staffing. So what you're going to need to be thinking about is adding and removing and updating staffing. The importance of staffing, first and foremost, is data security. TCA dictates exactly who should be able to see teacher evaluation data, and it's limited. Also, data access, you want to make sure all of your people have the right access to things, and then configuring those permissions. To work, when you're working on staffing, you'll go to the administration page and click on staff assignments. Just some things to think about before you begin staffing is, who's going to do this? Who's going to review your district level staffing? Who's going to update that? Will that person need training? The same thing for the school. Who's going to update the school staffing? Are your principals going to do their own updating, or is somebody at the central office going to do it? And who's going to be responsible for that? And will they need to be trained? You want to be sure that you're going to have to remove people who rolled over that should not be there. So to remove staffing assignments, when T Encompass rolls over, it rolls over everything from the prior year. So right now, unless you have already started doing work, your staffing looks exactly like it did at the end of the 23-24 school year. So this is an example of at the LEA level, which would be your district office, your central office, whatever you call that in your charter. So you can see that for everybody, you've got their name, you've got their role, you've got their educator profile. You can click on educator profile, it takes you to their page. But what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to review this list first and make sure that everybody's there should still be there and their staffing should be the same. If you have someone there that needs to be removed, it's very simple. You just click the little red button, the garbage can. It will remove them. It does not delete them from T-Encompass. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't remove their record. It just removes them from your staffing. If you once you click that, it will then tell you you're about to remove, so you can confirm it. If you confirm and then you need to restaff them, you can go back in and go to the I can't go backwards. Over here on the staff filters page, under staff status where it says active, if you click remove, it'll give you a list of everybody you've removed. And if you need to restaff that person, it says restaff, and you just click it and it brings them right back. So you haven't done anything. If you can fix anything you've done in T-Encompass. So after you get everybody out that has left your charter, you're going to want to do that at the district level and at the schools level. Then you're going to start thinking about adding staff. So when you add staff, you have to choose the role that they're going to be in. And there are certain roles at the district level and other roles at the school level. So at the district level, you can see this list. You have non-instructional observer, district staff, instructional supervisor, superintendent designee, evaluation administrator, a licensure administrator, and a superintendent. I have the superintendent starred because you cannot staff someone as superintendent. If your superintendent or whatever their title is, the person who is equivalent to a superintendent in your charter changes, you need to email Team Questions or email me, and we can change that. You also cannot remove a superintendent. Yes, you can. The next superintendent can remove the former superintendent. So a non-instructional is exactly what it says. It's somebody that's non-instructional. They're really not going to do anything in T-Encompass. You're putting them in there. They're not going to have very few permissions. Someone staffed as an observer means that they can observe teachers, which means they can see all of the teachers' scores. Be very careful about staffing somebody as an observer because it gives them access to other people's data. And you've got district staff. Those are just people that would work in your central office and may need to get in there to look up a teacher license number from the public side. Instructional supervisors, those are people who would be your instructional people. They have limited access. You have to configure their access there. Superintendent designee has all of the same permissions as the superintendent. The evaluation administrator, that's probably what you all need to be. You have access to everything and all the imports in T-Encompass. Licensure administrator gives you permission to start transactions, and you can be staffed in more than one role. Some of you may be an evaluation administrator and a licensure administrator. If you're staffed as superintendent designee, you can do both of those and you can configure permissions. At the school level, when you start staffing at the school level, you only have these 5. Again, this observer, it should be used very sparingly because that person then has access to all other teachers' data. So I know in order to get a waiver, you have to staff someone. I think you could staff them as non-instructional and start their waiver or permit. These are the basic roles and what their basic permissions are. So at the district or school level, a non-instructional role is appropriate for staff who are not licensed or are waiting on a license. So when you're putting somebody in to start that process, put them in as non-instructional. And all they can do is see the basic permissions. They can see all the announcements. They can see their personal stuff. And they can see their educator profile if they have one. They won't have one until they have a teacher's license. But that's for anybody that's waiting on a license. Then your teachers are for your licensed teacher and instructional coaches. Instructional coaches in a school would be staffed as a teacher. They have all of their basic permissions. They can see their stuff, but they can't see anybody else's. You can configure them to observe peer teachers. They have to be certified, and you need to be careful about who you're adding that for. An observer, again, is for people who will strictly be observing and not in another role. So if you have someone that you're sending from your central office to observe teachers in a particular school, you can staff them in that school as an observer. But they have all the permissions of a teacher. They can view educator licensures and endorsements, and they can see the current year observations if they are set to observe, but they cannot see evaluations for APs or principals. Instructional supervisors can just see basic stuff. This is an appropriate role at the district where they need to see a teacher's license, endorsements, experience, that kind of stuff. They can be configured to observe teachers if they are certified. You can add the data import and things like that if it's needed. So when you're adding staff, you go back to the same staff assignments page. Again, this is from a district view. This says add LEA staff here. You would click that. At the school, it would say add school staff. After you click that, you have to search for the person. It is very important that this license number is correct. So I'm using mine as an example. I searched by my name, first and last name, and my license number. If you have people that you're staffing and you have their license number, you need to look for them by license number. Ironically, there are more Amelia Floyds in TNCompass than just me. If you have a common name, you may come up with 10 people. And if you do not have that license number or some of this other distinguishing information, such as their birth date or their social security number, you've got to be sure you're staffing the right person, because if not, you're staffing a teacher that may be in another school, in another district, and you're going to start adding evaluation data for that person. And it gets really, really messy by the end of the year. I'm trying to clean up some stuff that happened last year when it went all year long before. What happens is a teacher finally notices, hey, I wasn't staffed at the Tennessee Department of Education, but I have all of this stuff. So please, please check those license numbers. If you want to add this person as an instructional supervisor, again, to see that, when you click on that person, this window opens up. Again, you've got all that identifying information. You just select the role. You just click in the button, click next. It'll pop up a window that says you're changing the role of this person or you're adding the person. And you click Save Staff, and they will be there. When you go back to your staff page, you can see that I was added as an instructional supervisor for this district. Then you can configure permissions for all of these people. Superintendent designee, licensed administrator, evaluation administrator. Those people can grant additional permissions through the configure button. This allows them to add additional staff. So if I wanted to configure mine, we would click the configure button. This will open up any of these permissions that I already have. Based on my role, they'll be green. These are permissions that we can add. So if we wanted to add so that I could see the evaluation view, which means I could see evaluation summaries and LOEs, I could see all the pacing, I could do administrative edits, I'd click this button, it would become a green check, and then I could do those things. These are groups that you can add, or you can also add them just as single permissions. So if you just wanted me to be able to set teachers PYE, partial year exemption, you would just click this button. LEA contacts, I'm proud to say that everybody has put in their LEA contacts. We use these lists not just our team, but other teams also use these lists to contact you throughout the year. You can update these throughout the year as people come and go. Everybody has people that come and go. Um, we can, you go to LEA contacts, they're on the administration tab. You go to LEA settings, you click on the LEA settings tile, and there'll be a button at the top. You can't change anything else that's on that page. There'll be a button at the top that says contacts. It will open this up. Yours will be filled in. So if your director of schools, CMO, leaves, your superintendent essentially, you just click the little eraser and then you put the next person in. You have to be, whoops, excuse me, I don't have it at the bottom. There's a save button at the bottom. You have to click save or it won't save those. So periodically throughout the year as people change, please try to keep this updated. This is information for team training. If you use the team observation rubric, your people have to be certified. Recertification ends August 31st. Initial certification goes through March 31st. So make sure if you're a team district, if you're using that team evaluation, that you get your people certified. That information is also on the team website under team training. So resources. Our biggest resource we have for you is the team website. You can see we have multiple tabs there. Almost everything that you need for any of those is there. This is what we use to answer a lot of questions with. We point people back to resources on the team website. So just be aware that that's there. Our office hours will be posted under the office hours tab. There's the office hours for evaluation configurators, which is very similar. Those meetings will always be very similar to what we do with charters. We just kind of customize it for charter schools. There are portfolio office hours. There are alternative growth measure office hours. And as those happen, we post those in the PowerPoints. The team evaluation timeline is something that you are going to want to be aware of. I have one printed out over here on the side of my desk. Tracy and I both print things. We're still old enough to print. It's under upcoming deadlines on the homepage of the team website. This is what it looks like. This is the link to it. You'll notice that we've got a completion date, what needs to happen, who is responsible typically for doing that in a district. And then resources. All of those resources to complete those actions are linked here. And it also, the last column has the designation, whether it's the current year or the prior year. Right now, for the next, until Christmas, we're going to be working in 2 years. We're going to be soon adding achievement measure scores for 23-24 at the same time that you're doing staffing for 24-25. So we've got, we have that there to help you and us know which year we're talking about. There's a lot of email support. So team questions answers questions about T-Encompass, observations, growth measures, TVOS growth measures, and alternative growth measures from the Universal Reading Screener. We answer questions about achievement measures, evaluation trainings, basically anything with the team process. Portfolio questions is who you're going to want to email for questions about portfolios. RV.questions is about teacher roster verification that's done in the spring after testing. That's how you connect teachers to students for their individual growth scores. Educator licensure answers all questions with licensures, professional development points, and experience. We get lots of questions about those things that we can't answer. We get those in team questions. We don't mind it, but we forward those to licensure, which makes it longer, takes longer for you to get an answer than if you just email educator licensure. Tassel.information is where you can get information about Tassel academies and Tassel credit for your principals and administrators. TN.universal reading screener with any questions about the Universal Reading Screener test administration, reporting, the scores, the growth scores for the Universal Reading Screener just come to us. We don't have any. It's very much like TVOS. SAS sends us a spreadsheet with a teacher's name and a number 1 through 5 on it. We get the same thing for the alternative growth measures. So we can't answer questions about testing administration and reporting and that kind of stuff. And then with any questions about just the TCAP assessments, EOC assessments, 10ed at DOT assessment can answer those questions for you. This is the list of our office hours that we have planned for the year. The dates, the subjects are, our content is subject to change based on timeline. We don't know for sure when we're going to have LOE data, so we will adjust accordingly there. But this is basically what we plan to discuss in our meetings. We will, as I said, we'll adapt that as needed. So the next steps for you are to update your staffing at your central office level and at the building. Share the evaluation implementation process, whatever your observation process is, share all that information with your evaluators. Make sure that everybody knows who's going to do what. We're going to start doing achievement measure scores and growth measure selection soon. And then communicate the expectation that all staff review and update their email addresses in TNCompass. Those email addresses in TNCompass need to be an email that they always have access to, as opposed to putting in a school email where if they leave your charter, they may not have access to that anymore, and it makes it very difficult for them to get into TNCompass. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
No questions from me. Thanks, guys, for your time.
All right. If you all have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help. We're always happy to jump on a call if we need to help upload any information, or sometimes it's easier for us to talk where we can share screens.
Okay.
All right.